presentation is the circulatory system. Inside the human body, there's a large muscular organ, about centered in the chest, slightly left, the heart muscle. Pumps blood through the system. It's a closed system, pumps it back in to itself and through the different organs required to clean up that blood system, circulation. We have a outgoing, which is the red from the left ventricle. This is blood that's very highly oxygenated. The other side of the system is, we indicate with blue here, that's oxygen coming back into the right ventricle, or excuse me, blood coming back into the right ventricle that is very low in oxygen. From here it goes to the lungs and back through this left ventricle and out to the system. The circulatory system is intended to feed the body nutrients. After your digestive system does its job and things are picked up and cleaned up a little bit, then it gets into the bloodstream and it goes out to the various parts of the body for the cellular nourishment. The other corresponding side picks up some of that debris, takes it through the corresponding organs and back through the system, brings back very depleted blood, and it's reoxygenated and pumped out. The closed system works very nicely for a long, long time without any problems until we begin to do things that cause it to break down. One of the first things that anybody became aware of in reference to the circulatory system being a problem was heart disease and high blood pressure. First thing the medical profession found was that if we were to reduce our consumption of salt, sodium, as in inorganic type, as in cooked, baked, dried, refined, that would increase our ability to maintain proper circulation if we would get rid of that stuff. Because what happens is the sodium gets out here extracellular or intracellular rather and causes pressure on these arteries, tends to constrict them. So then the heart has to work even harder, and it strains it, weakens it, raises your blood pressure. So we did low salt diets. And a few years later they said, well, we've not got a handle on this heart disease problem yet. What they're finding was a lot of cholesterol problems, the clogging of the arteries. So several doctors came out with these great programs. They said, let's go low fat. That's the answer here. So let's eliminate all fat from our diet. And they didn't care whether it was animal meat or avocados. Everybody got a bad name if it had a little bit of fat in it. Well, recent studies from the American Heart Association have said that, well, gosh, for 10 years now we've been studying this thing, and heart disease is still increasing. With all this other stuff going on, with all the cholesterol medicines, with all the low-fat diets, heart disease is still increasing. 10-year study, they found that the real culprit in the heart disease problem was margarine. Next in line, they said they were going to continue to study those, was alcohol, tobacco, and sugar. The problem is that the margarine is in fact a plastic. It is a hydrogenated oil. That's the word you want to look for, hydrogenated. It means that the oil has been processed in some way to thicken it. Even, unfortunately, good oil, like olive oil, if you burn it, hydrogenates. When's the last time you burned a little olive oil in your wok or in your frying pan and you had to try and clean it up? It was like plastic baked on there, like varnish. And that's what happens when they hydrogenate oils. So we're going to stick with the word margarine for now and consider that any oil that's hydrogenated is going to do the same thing. Within your arterial system, you've got blood pumping through here and it's doing just fine and it's going off, oxygenating your brain and the rest of your body, and it's got cholesterol in it. You got HDL, you got LDL, and they're pretty well self-balancing. There's not a problem, even when some of the numbers seem to get a little high and low in either direction. But let's put you on a margarine diet to try and save your life. The plastic in that margarine goes into this system. The enzymes that are in your body are trying to deal with that. And what happens is you get scars and cuts and lesions in the walls of that artery from the reaction of the enzymes and the plasticized oils. Along comes this cholesterol, which is a good guy, and he sits here for a few minutes trying to act like a Band-Aid, seal off that lesion, heal that wound a little bit, and let the tissue heal underneath the cholesterol little patch. And that's a good thing. Well, now let's also say, well, maybe you've eaten the Western diet most of your life, and you're very high in animal protein and dairy products, You go around with that white mustache on all the time. And maybe you eat a tremendous amount of grains, even if you're a vegetarian and you're trying to eat grains. All those things make your body acidic, and that keeps calcium in solution in your bloodstream. You can't put calcium into bone where it belongs in an acid system. It will remain in solution. Let's say you've got an osteoporosis problem, and the doctor says, well, you should be taking this particular calcium supplement that is not digestible by the human being, but it makes great oyster shells when you glue it back together. And it raises your blood serum calcium. The calcium comes along in this bloodstream here, and there's this little plaque thing, this little cholesterol Band-Aid sitting there, and the calcium enters into that. Now you have plaque, calcium plus cholesterol, and it starts to build up. And as the blood tries to make this corner around those two things, it slows down. And that allows even more of this stuff to build up. Eventually, the two connect, you get a stroke, or you have a heart attack. You have some failure in the system because of not of the cholesterol in your bloodstream, but because of the high serum calcium, your body's acid. You've been eating hydrogenated oils or sugar, alcohol, tobacco. You don't eat tobacco. And you've damaged these arteries in here somehow. Your body's trying to do its repair work. You've thrown it completely out of balance. To go to a doctor and he says, oh, you've got cholesterol, you're at 250 or 260. You need to get that number down. The question is, the American Heart Association made this statement in their study, that if they're dealing with a person who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, doesn't eat a lot of sugar, doesn't eat margarine, then the standard cholesterol numbers no longer apply. You can deal very nicely with a cholesterol number of 300 if you don't do this other stuff. Now, if you've been doing it for years, you might need to do some cleanup before you allow your numbers to get that high if they do. So don't be put into a state of anxiety because somebody said, your cholesterol numbers are up here. We have to put you on this medication. The anxiety will make your body acidic. Your serum calcium numbers will go up, and you're right back where you started from. So cholesterol itself is not the bad guy. It's what we do within the system. What we put in here, what we turn it into. That's the real problem. So we can clean this up quite a bit by bringing that balance back into the system and working with the things that we put in there. We'll talk about some herbals and supplements that can clean the system up pretty well. And we'll get to those very shortly. So we're going to work on this system. Another thing that can happen, and it usually happens out in the periphery, would be varicose veins. Now, varicose veins would be out usually down in the legs because this system is under pressure. Now, remember, the heart's trying to pump from here, up here, down there. That's the easy part. But then pump it back up again. And that can be a problem, especially if there's a lot of tissue to try and pump it through. In our legs, within that artery, there's these little cup-shaped valves so that the blood can go up but not fall back. That works pretty well if everything is flowing properly. But you take someone who's got a little bit of a weight thing, or maybe they're not exercising very much and they sit. They're kind of sedentary a lot. Happens to women in pregnancy because of the extra weight and extra strain on the body. These little cups are assisted in their movement of blood back up out of the legs by the muscles that are out here. You can pump a tremendous amount of blood back up in the system by tightening your calf muscle. I know most people, like when they're sitting at a meeting or a church or something, and they're sitting there and their foot goes to sleep, their leg starts to tingle. They take their toes and they start pulling their toes up towards them, completely backwards. That does not shorten or tighten the calf muscle. What we need to do is point the toes. And just like in your arm here, when you point the toes, you tighten up the calf muscle. An excellent exercise for someone who's on their feet all the time is to do toe lifts. Just a couple of minutes a day, do the toe lifts. You can feel the calf tighten up. If you're sitting and you have to stay at your desk, or you're sitting in a car, you're driving, you're stuck there because of business or something, try and take your feet and point the toes for a few minutes and tighten that calf muscle, pump this blood up out of here, work the muscles around those capillaries. Excellent way to assist the system. Joggers, I've run across a number of joggers who end up with varicose veins. Joggers tend to run flat-footed. They are pounding gravity, blood, down into the legs, flat-footed. Sprinters and swimmers don't have that problem because they are pumping the calves all the time. A sprinter will do a toe push. Walking in sand. Now, if you're going to jog, go jog on the beach. It's going to make you tighten the calf, pump this blood back up out of here. Jogging out on cement or on the highway, or even a dirt trail through the woods, is not the best thing you can do for your legs. It's not the best thing you can do for the system. It may raise your heart rate, may raise your breathing and so forth, and that's a good thing to do, but it's very, very tough on the legs and the arteries down there and the veins that can become varicose. Now, varicose veins can be very painful when they end up in something like phlebitis, where they get irritated and inflamed. Exercise is our friend here, especially leg exercise. We're a nation that sit at a desk, sit at a computer, sit in a car. We not only need to get up and move our legs, we need to move our stomach. We talk about breathing a lot. Breathing has a tremendous effect on us. Get this blood oxygenated. Get it out into the system where it belongs. But move those legs up and down. You won't have any problems with varicose veins. The exercise part is very important. Not everybody has to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's not necessary. It would be nice if we would all walk maybe 12 miles a week. You don't have to do it all at once. I know that people traveling many times will try to use the stairs in their hotel. I mean, I don't do the 12th floor thing. But if there's like 3, 4 floors, you can use the stairs as well as the elevator. I mean, once you've got the bags where they belong. But get some exercise. To crawl out of bed, go down and get in the car, it's not going to do it for you. Keep this system moving, keep it exercised. Keep it full of oxygen, keep it hydrated. We're going to talk about water in a few minutes. It is very, very important that this system have plenty of water added to it. Not added, but hydrated. So we've gone over its primary function, that it is in fact a pump. It is also, in fact, I'll make a little aside here, it is a gland, and we cover that in the glandular system. This is not just a muscle anymore. Current research indicates that this is actually a gland, and it is affected by how, or affects us, how happy and sad we are. So take care of this heart. Feed it what it needs. Give it some exercise. Do the right things, and it'll give you a lot of good service. You can get a lot of miles out of this thing very easily. We're going to go over to the other board and get into some of the circulatory supplementation here. I just mentioned water. This is the cheapest medicine we got. Within the circulatory system, you take a vein or an artery, and it's got cells here, like little bricks in a road, that sort of thing. And then there's layers, and there's enzymes running through here, and there's the capillaries and so forth. Now, when you dehydrate your body, as in not drinking what the equivalent of half your body weight in ounces, and I need to make a little illustration of that. If you weigh 160 pounds, you make that 160 ounces, cut it in half, and it equals 80 ounces of water. So that's how you determine how much water your body needs to be hydrated. Food doesn't count, juice doesn't count, the cup of coffee that our nation thinks is all we need, none of that counts. You can't have digestion going on. It's got to be just water. Okay? So we take the water. When the system becomes dehydrated, the body goes into a conservation mode, and several things happen. The first priority of the circulatory system reference to the blood is to maintain volume throughout the circulatory system. You cannot begin to shut the brain off with lack of blood, thereby lack of oxygen. You would have cellular damage if there wasn't enough blood getting out to the peripheries. You would get gangrene in a very short period of time. So the volume must be maintained. Water, this simple little thing right here, is the predominant part of your blood. That's where the volume is. Not in the chemicals in it, but in the volume of water in it. So the water running through here, the body will try and maintain that volume. And there's two ways to do it. It will begin by taking water out of the enzyme system, taking water out from between these cells, and putting them into the bloodstream to conserve water. Out in the joints and everything else, you start to get discomfort, but immediately what happens is this system has two choices. To keep these little bricks together, your body can either use water or it can use cholesterol. So if there's not enough water in this system here, your liver kicks in and it makes cholesterol that goes in here and acts like cement between these cells, also raising the cholesterol level within the arteries. So you can drop your cholesterol many times by just drinking more water, getting hydrated, half your body weight in ounces. Another thing that happens is this volume drops and the body's trying to conserve water and it's pulling it from different parts of your body. If it can't get enough, fast enough, it begins to tighten the muscles out here and the size of this pipe gets smaller. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the principles of hydraulics, but you can maintain volume by decreasing the size of the pipe. Now the pressure goes up, thereby high blood pressure, thereby a possible aneurysm in the brain, thereby stroke. Dehydration is a major cause of all those heart problems, all those arterial problems. Do that water thing and you will give yourself the best medicine you can to keep this system working properly. The cholesterol, we talked about how that comes along here trying to do its job. It's not the bad guy. It's always just trying to do what it knows your body knows it's supposed to do. So the best thing I can suggest is to really hydrate, and you'll do a tremendous amount for your circulatory system. You'll maintain blood volume, and you'll keep the arteries where they're supposed to be. You'll keep your cholesterol down. Now there's another mechanism that we haven't even got to here that can raise cholesterol, and it's real important. We talk about environmental toxins. It is the liver's job to remove environmental toxins from your system and process them and flush them out. You've got to think of the liver as kind of a lazy organism. It can only do so much of one process at a time. If it's dealing with a lot of environmental toxins, it's going to let this cholesterol job slide. And I had a very graphic example of that. An associate I talked to, it's been almost a year ago now, had a client, cholesterol was at 300 something. The doctor had that person in absolute fear, anxiety, and they were doing everything they could naturally to bring the cholesterol down. And they were battling and battling, and they got it down to about 225, and that was the best they could do. Somebody had a brainstorm, and they took the scented laundry products out of that person's life. Stopped using laundry soap that was scented so they didn't sleep on sheets and wear clothing that was scented. They quit using the dryer scented thing, the softener pad, so that that was out of the system. And within a matter of a week to 10 days, somewhere in there, the cholesterol dropped 20 points or more. Those toxins that that person was exposed to, now maybe their liver was already stressed and that needed some more work, but that was the key, taking that extra stress off their liver to let their cholesterol come down, let the liver do its job. So we have environmental toxins that can raise our cholesterol. We work with people that are environmentally sensitive. And unfortunately, it hasn't been recognized yet as like fibromyalgia has been recognized as a major problem, or chronic fatigue. The government and especially the industries involved are saying that Environmental sensitive people, that's all psychosomatic stuff. Well, it's not. You can walk into a room and you wouldn't know today if it had been recently bug sprayed, because the EPA now allows bug spray to be masked and descented. Bug spray will strain your liver to the point that your cholesterol will go crazy. Can poison your liver. Cleaning products in your home will do the same thing. It is my suggestion that you go as organic as possible, and if it's not organic, at least try and get it unscented. But using natural products will take the strain off your liver, and in reference to this system, lower your cholesterol for you. The liver is critical in this system. We're going to come on down here with another great herb, capsicum or cayenne. This herb should always be in a circulatory formula. Now, some people take it every day in large quantities. I'm not sure that's the best thing to do because you kind of reach a tolerance point to it. But it's a good source of vitamin C. So if you are eating plenty of good food and you want to take some capsicum cayenne every day, you might be able to use it as a supplement. But within a circulatory situation, I've seen some people use it. For example, there was a client came in an associate's office that was so debilitated that they were like in slow motion. Nothing could get through the system to do any healing. So by using some capsicum to kind of speed up the system and get circulation going. Capsicum will also, it may seem like a paradox, but if you have an internal or even an external hemorrhage of any kind, capsicum will stop the hemorrhage. It's a great circulatory, but it will also stop a hemorrhage. It can be used as a styptic external. If you have an internal hemorrhage going on, maybe a little heavy menstruation flow that occurs periodically but hasn't got any specific cause for it that you've tracked down yet, try some capsicum. It'll definitely work as an anti-hemorrhage. Garlic, wonderful circulatory. See, you. I know that there's people, they walk in the office all the time, they say, well, I want to do this herbal program, it's fantastic stuff, I really want to do it, but I'm going to keep taking my aspirin a day. And I say, why? Well, because my doctor said, and all this literature says that an aspirin a day prevents stroke and heart disease. I said, oh, okay. What about when it perforates your lower intestinal tract or something of that nature and you don't know it? Oh, no, well, and by the way, baby aspirin is not really any weaker than a regular aspirin. There's been a lot of expose information on that. The point is you don't need the aspirin. I've had people do an entire herbal program and still insist on taking that aspirin a day because they read about it in some magazine. It's an excellent French study. I found it in the Wall Street Journal one day, little tiny piece of print about that high in 3 lines. For something like 10, 15 years, they studied garlic, and they found that garlic was almost 30 times more effective than aspirin at preventing stroke and heart disease, and as a blood thinner. Now, you can't take enough garlic to make you into a hemophiliac. It's not that kind of blood thinner. But if you are taking any form of garlic, you don't need the aspirin. Don't take the risk. Let the garlic do its job. It's got other benefits. It's antibiotic, it's antifungal, it does some wonderful things through your body. And if we all ate more garlic, then everybody would be more friendly with garlic. It wouldn't be a problem. Take the garlic every day, even if it's just 1 capsule, and you will have a much healthier circulatory system. We'll go on down here to hawthorn berries. This is a builder, a strengthener of the heart. Now, you can get a very quick reaction with garlic. I mean, if you want to try and lower some blood pressure for somebody, you put them on large doses of garlic, and it'll come down rather quickly. Hawthorn might take several weeks for you to begin to feel the full benefits. This is really what we might call a tonic. Tonics work rather slowly, but they repair and build over a period of time. You can take hawthorn berries forever. And it should be in a heart formula, in any circulatory formula. They are fantastic at strengthening the circulatory system in the heart. Next we have chlorophyll. If you'll think of chlorophyll as the blood of the plant, and then realize that the molecule of chlorophyll is almost identical to the blood molecule in a human being. The only difference is that instead of iron, which we have, they have copper. So perhaps there is some place where everybody's green, but not necessarily here. Chlorophyll, because of its close similarity to the human blood, is an excellent tonic, cleanser, detoxifier, goes through the system, helps you clean toxins out of your blood. We can do it by either eating very green plants, or you can take it as capsules or liquid in a drink. It's fantastic. I know of people that have used this as a disinfectant on wounds. Very, very effective. Butcher's broom. Got its name originally because old-time butchers back in early England and places about that time would take this herb and scrub their chopping blocks with it, and the minerals and so forth in that herb would dissolve the fatty deposits on that chopping block. It'll do the same thing inside your system. It is an excellent, slow chelator. It will go through your circulatory system and maybe work on some of those plaque deposits we talked about and some of the fatty deposits that are building up all over your body, but specific to the bloodstream, and it will begin to get those fatty deposits out of your system. This is a great herb that's kind of overlooked a lot in a circulatory system. Ginkgo biloba. Really, really popular in the past few years. This is an almost, it's even more than ancient. The ginkgo biloba tree probably hasn't changed any since the pterodactyls and the Tyrannosaurus rex were around chewing on the branches. This is a phenomenal herb. Lots of studies on it overseas in England, and not England, in Germany and in Asian countries. It is an oxygenator of the brain. There are some active ingredients in there that stimulate short-term memory, that stimulate the heart and its circulatory processes. The main thing that happens to most people when they start having brain failure is dehydration and lack of oxygen to the brain. Now, you get into some older folks and you take the circulatory system and it's been clogged up a little bit and they're not oxygenating and they're dehydrated, and the medical profession gives them more chemicals. It is not more chemicals that we need. It's oxygen, water. Get those things to the brain and you won't have as much of the problems as you would without them. Ginkgo biloba, fantastic at oxygenating the whole system, keeping it strong. We should have COQ10 here. COQ10 is also an oxygenator of the system. Originally discovered in the heart muscle in large amounts. Found now that it oxygenates the entire system of the body, all the tissue, but especially the circulatory system. So I would use some COQ10 with the ginkgo perhaps and some of these other herbals. There's another one that goes real well with ginkgo here, and that's cola. And that's cola with a K, not a C. There's no caffeine in this. Caffeine restricts this system. We do not want to use caffeine. Cola, excellent circulatory, an oxygenator of tissue, but it repairs all collagen structure. So if you are doing some work and you know that you've eaten margarine for 20 years and you might have some of this scarring in your tissue, cola might be something you'd want to consider as part of your rebuilding process to strengthen your arterial system. Within the vitamins, A, C, E, selenium, the antioxidants. A is real specific to the strength of the capillaries in the arterial system. Vitamin C, besides being antioxidants, vitamin C is also a collagen builder, like cola. E is necessary for collagen structure and strength of the tissue. Selenium helps with the enzyme action to do all this. There's another one that we tend to overlook, zinc. Zinc is the enzyme mineral. It takes enzymes to put all this together. It takes enzymes to put it apart and repair it. People who are zinc deficient, this system gets weak and it doesn't repair itself very well. A basic multiple vitamin of a reasonable amount of quantity, percentages, should do the job for you. Touch on that real quick. There's something that I'm sure you've all seen, and I'm going to make a little, there it is, RDA, And they're starting to change this recommended daily allowance. They're expanding on it, making it some other words. The problem with the figures that run out after this, the 100% of RDA, when this number was originally developed, like somebody says, you need 300 milligrams of vitamin C, that's your RDA. All that was determined on how close you could bring a rat to death and still keep it alive with your vitamin. And that's it. I call it death maintenance for a rat. Don't buy into that 100% RDA. Most of the vitamins, A, C, E, the Bs and things like that, should be somewhere at least 400% of RDA or above. Now there's a few that you need to keep, like selenium. It needs to be down. But don't go get a 1 a day, 100% multiple. You're going to run into some serious problems ultimately. I've got some oils down here, and these would be essential oils. They can be used within this system. Geranium oil, for example, it's a wonderful oil to use on your skin. It helps restore the texture of your skin. Same way you could use it on varicose veins. Very strengthening, soothing, and healing to a varicose vein. It can also be used as a styptic, meaning if there's a little cut or a scratch, it will stop bleeding. It won't work on a major hemorrhage like capsicum will, but it can be used for minor breaks in the skin. Excellent for that, but really, really good for varicose veins. And we have clove oil here. Clove oil can be used to raise blood pressure. Someone who is real sluggish, and maybe you're trying to work with some capsicum and get their circulation up, you can use clove oil. The only caution that I have for you right now with clove oil is that large amounts of it continually are stressful on the kidneys. So you would only use it for a short period of time and in moderation. Rosemary oil, this is used to, again, work on varicose veins, and it also can bring up the blood pressure a little bit. Let me get a little room here. There's some others that we can work with. We don't always have to raise blood pressure. Sometimes we want to bring it down. One that everybody usually has on hand, if they're doing anything with oils, is lavender. Lavender will help lower blood pressure. Very soothing, very relaxing, very healing, but it will help, in its calming effect, bring blood pressure down. There's another herb that we might consider here while we're talking about blood pressure, an old standby. Valerian root. Valerian root has a lot of magnesium and vitamin C. Magnesium, vitamin C. Magnesium is the heart mineral. Vitamins, and calcium, high in magnesium, calcium. Calcium is a heart mineral. With those two minerals, it can help relax the heart, stabilize it. But it also has some active ingredients called valtropates. And valtropates are, in fact, a central nervous system relaxant. It can bring the blood pressure down. So with a combination of maybe some garlic, some valerian, and you might want to use a little lavender, you could get someone real stable in their blood pressure while they were doing other work to get the system clean and healthy, and they would need a whole lot less medication and all the side effect and damage that that would do. Sometimes we'll combine valerian with hops and sometimes with passion flower. Those are two other herbals that help regulate blood pressure. They're also nervines, they're muscle relaxers, but I like to use valerian root quite a bit working with high blood pressure. There's a lot of other herbals that we can put in here for the circulatory system. These are the ones that you'll most commonly run across. Remember, the greatest, most important one, your supplementation program should include at least your body weight, half of it in ounces, in water. If you could get hydrated, you'll have a whole lot less problems with your circulatory system. We've presented some information to you. We hope you'll be able to share it with other people. We truly believe that the greatest gift you can give anybody is the gift of choices and control of their life and their body. Understand it, and that's what we're trying to present for you, a way to begin to understand how these systems of the body work. We want to share that with you, and we appreciate it that you come and share your time with us, and we would be very thankful if you would give this information to other people. We'd like to remind you that at the beginning of this presentation you saw a disclaimer, and we appreciate it if you would understand that this information is just for educational purposes only. It is never meant to take the place of medical treatment or diagnosis. Please keep that in mind as you share it with people.